Imagine standing in a packed arena, the crowd pulsating with energy as a figure emerges from the shadows. Gold chains gleaming under the spotlight, custom-tailored suit catching every beam of light, and a voice so commanding it makes the speakers tremble. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Shabba Ranks in the early 90s. Not just a performer, but a force of nature that transformed dancehall music from a Jamaican phenomenon into a global revolution. But what if I told you that at the absolute peak of his powers, when record deals were flowing and Grammy Awards were being collected, it all came crashing down in less than 5 minutes. One interview, 5 minutes. That's all it took to derail what many considered the most promising career in reggae history. The labels that once fought to sign him suddenly couldn't distance themselves fast enough. The radio stations that played his hits on repeat now refused to even mention his name. And just like that, Shabba Ranks, the man who brought Jamaica to the world, vanished from the spotlight. But here's where it gets interesting. 3 decades later, a new generation of artists is calling him their inspiration. And the very industry that shunned him is now celebrating his legacy. So what really happened to the Emperor of Dancehall? How did a boy from the poorest streets of Kingston rise to international stardom, lose everything overnight, and somehow find his way back? This is not just another music documentary. This is the untold story of one of music's greatest comebacks. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never look at second chances the same way again. The story of Shabba Ranks begins on January 17, 1966, in the parish of St. Ann, Jamaica, the same birthplace as reggae legend Bob Marley. Born Rexton Rolston Fernando Gordon, his early life was defined by struggle in Seaview Gardens, one of Kingston's toughest neighborhoods. This community, despite its challenges, was a cultural melting pot that would later produce some of Jamaica's most influential musical talents. While his father worked tirelessly as a bricklayer to keep food on the table, it was his mother, Mama Christie, who became Shabba's rock. Her unwavering support would later be immortalized in his music and interviews, with Shabba often crediting her for keeping him off the streets and focused on his budding passion for music. Seaview Gardens in the 1970s and early 80s wasn't just a neighborhood, it was a daily masterclass in survival. Yet amidst the hardship, music flowed through every zinc fence and concrete wall. Sound systems would set up on weekends, transforming the community into an open-air dance hall where local artists could showcase their talents. For young Rexton, these performances weren't just entertainment, they were glimpses into a possible future. He would stand for hours, studying every move, every lyric, every crowd reaction, unaware that he was preparing for a career that would one day make him Jamaica's musical ambassador to the world. The moment that changed everything came not on a grand stage, but while collecting empty bottles at a local dance. Shabba, then a teenager trying to earn whatever money he could, was supposed to be working. Instead, his attention was completely captivated by a performer named Josie Wales. As Wales commanded the microphone with effortless authority, something clicked in young Rexton's mind. The way the crowd responded, the energy exchange between artist and audience, it was like witnessing alchemy. That night, while walking home with a few dollars in his pocket, he made a decision that would alter the course of his life. The bottle collecting was temporary, but music would be forever. Fate has a funny way of creating opportunities, and for Shabba, it came in the form of a chance encounter with Josie Wales himself. Recognizing something special in the eager teenager, Wales invited him to a recording studio, a sacred space that most aspiring artists could only dream of entering. It was there that Shabba caught the attention of King Jammy, a producer whose ear for talent had already discovered numerous dancehall stars. At just 16 years old, still unsure of his stage presence, but confident in his unique vocal delivery, Shabba recorded his first tracks under the name Co-Pilot. These early recordings, while rough around the edges, showcased a distinctive voice that blended the traditional DJ style with something entirely new, a fusion that would eventually become his signature sound. The late 1980s marked Shabba's transition from local curiosity to serious contender. In 1988, his debut album Rapping with the Ladies was released on a small independent label in Queens, New York. While this record didn't break him internationally, it began building his reputation within Caribbean communities across the United States and United Kingdom. Industry insiders took note of his unique delivery, a gravelly, authoritative voice that seemed to physically push the boundaries of whatever beat it encountered. But it was his 1989 follow-up album Just Reality that truly announced Shabba's arrival. The track Demolition Man became more than just a hit. It became an anthem, showcasing his ability to craft lyrics that were simultaneously streetwise and commercially appealing. What set Shabba apart wasn't just his music, it was the complete package. While many of his contemporaries were content with casual stage wear, Shabba crafted an image as meticulous as his lyrics. Custom-tailored suits in bold colors became his uniform. Gold chains, not one or two, but layers that covered his chest like armor, became his statement piece. Even his eyebrows were perfectly manicured, creating a look that was both regal and rebellious. This wasn't just fashion, it was strategy. Shabba understood that in order to transcend from local hero to international superstar, he needed to be more than just heard, he needed to be seen. And in an era before social media, when visual impact was everything, Shabba Ranks was impossible to ignore. The early 1990s saw Shabba achieve what no other dancehall artist had accomplished before: mainstream American success. His signing with Epic Records was revolutionary, marking the first time a major US label had invested so heavily in a dancehall artist. The partnership immediately bore fruit with the 1991 release of As Raw as Ever, an album that would earn Shabba his first Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album. The record featured the smash hit Trailer Load of Girls, which dominated urban radio stations across America, and The Jam, a collaboration with KRS-One, that bridged the worlds of dancehall and hip-hop in ways that would influence both genres for decades to come. Shabba's follow-up album, Extra Naked, released in 1992, further cemented his international status with the crossover hit Mr. Loverman. The song reached number 40 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and became a staple on MTV, an unprecedented achievement for a dancehall artist at that time. Collaborations with mainstream artists like Maxi Priest on House Call expanded his audience even further, introducing suburban America to the infectious rhythms of Jamaican dancehall. By mid-1992, Shabba Ranks wasn't just a musician, he was a cultural phenomenon, selling out venues from Tokyo to London, collecting awards, and appearing on major television shows. The boy from Seaview Gardens had not only achieved his dream, he had exceeded it beyond his wildest imagination. December 1992, The Word, a popular British late-night television show, what should have been a routine promotional appearance, became the 5 minutes that would derail Shabba's meteoric rise. When asked about the controversial song Boom Bye Bye, by fellow Jamaican artist Buju Banton, a track widely criticized for its violent lyrics against the LGBTQ+ community, Shabba could have distanced himself, he could have offered a diplomatic response. Instead, he chose to defend the sentiment behind the song, stating that homosexuality deserved punishment, according to his religious beliefs. The studio audience fell silent. The host, visibly uncomfortable, pressed Shabba to clarify. Rather than backtracking, he doubled down on his stance. Within hours, the interview had become international news. Within days, the backlash was severe and swift. Radio stations in major markets across the United States and Europe pulled his music from rotation. MTV, which had embraced him just months earlier, ceased playing his videos. Major sponsors distanced themselves, contracts were cancelled, and the once unstoppable momentum of Shabba's career came to a sudden halt. Even more damaging was the response from the music community itself. Artists who had eagerly collaborated with him now refused to be associated with his name. The dancehall genre as a whole suffered, as promoters became wary of booking any artists connected to the controversy. In the aftermath, Shabba did issue an apology, stating that his words had been misinterpreted, and that he did not advocate violence against any group. But in the pre-social media era, where public figures had limited platforms to address controversies, the damage control came too late. The apology was largely seen as insincere, a desperate attempt to salvage what remained of his career, rather than a genuine expression of regret. His removal from Bobby Brown's UK tour was just the beginning. Festival lineups were adjusted, interview requests dried up, and album sales plummeted. By early 1993, the Emperor of Dancehall had been effectively dethroned. The fall from grace wasn't just professional, it was personal. Friends in the industry suddenly became distant. The phone calls from producers and collaborators stopped coming. The isolation took a toll on Shabba's mental health, forcing him to confront questions about his identity, his beliefs, and the price of fame. Throughout this period, one constant remained his wife Michelle, whom he had married in 1992, just months before the controversy erupted. Their relationship became his anchor in the storm, providing stability when everything else seemed uncertain. Together, they made the difficult decision that would shape the next chapter of Shabba's life, a retreat from the public eye. By 1994, Shabba Ranks had virtually disappeared from the music scene. The man who once couldn't go anywhere without being recognized, now lived in relative anonymity in New York. He focused on raising his children, investing in real estate, and reconnecting with the spiritual aspects of his Jamaican heritage. Some industry insiders speculated that the retreat was strategic, a temporary cooling-off period before a calculated comeback. Others believed Shabba was simply done with the industry that had embraced him so enthusiastically, only to discard him just as quickly. The truth, as Shabba would later reveal in rare interviews, was somewhere in between. He needed time to heal, to reflect, and most importantly, to rediscover the joy in music that had been overshadowed by controversy and commercial pressures. While Shabba stepped away, dancehall music continued to evolve. Artists like Sean Paul, Beanie Man, and Shaggy took elements of what Shabba had pioneered and brought them further into the mainstream. Ironically, as these artists achieved global success, many cited Shabba as their primary influence, keeping his legacy alive even in his absence. His impact on fashion was equally enduring. The bold, flashy aesthetic he had popularized became a staple in hip-hop culture, with artists from Puff Daddy to Jay-Z adopting elements of his distinctive style. Without making a single new record, Shabba Ranks remained a ghost-like presence in the music he had helped transform. The first signs of Shabba's return came quietly. In 2007, he made a surprise appearance at a concert in Jamaica, performing a short set that sent the crowd into a frenzy. The reception was a revelation. Despite the controversy, despite the years of absence, the love for his music remained intact. This brief return to the stage planted a seed that would slowly grow over the following years. Rather than rushing back into the spotlight, Shabba took his time, carefully selecting small performances and guest appearances that allowed him to reconnect with audiences on his own terms. Each positive reception built his confidence, gradually healing the wounds of his abrupt departure from the industry. In 2011, Nearly 2 decades after the controversy that derailed his career, Shabba released the single None of Them featuring Ed Both. The track wasn't designed to top charts or recapture his previous commercial success. It was simply a statement: Shabba Ranks was making music again. The following year, he collaborated with Tech N9 Nylon Boy Toy, introducing himself to a new generation of music fans, who knew his name only as a reference in other artists' lyrics. These strategic collaborations were more than just songs. They were Shabba dipping his toes back into the water, testing the temperature of an industry that had once turned its back on him. The real turning point in Shabba's comeback story came from an unexpected source. In 2013, $AP Ferg released a track simply titled Shabba, a tribute to the dancehall legend that celebrated his style, his influence and his legacy. The song became a hit, introducing Shabba Ranks to millions of young listeners who had never heard his original music. In a move that demonstrated both humility and marketing genius, Shabba agreed to appear in the music video, creating a powerful visual connection between dancehall's past and present. The video went viral, accumulating millions of views and sparking renewed interest in Shabba's catalog. Streaming numbers for his classic tracks surged, and a new generation began discovering the artist behind the name they'd heard referenced in contemporary hip-hop. With momentum building, Shabba began accepting more performance opportunities, including high-profile festivals and concert series. Each appearance was strategically chosen to rebuild his brand, without overexposing himself or reigniting old controversies. His 2016 performance at Reggae Sumfest in Jamaica was particularly significant, returning to the stage in his home country, before an audience that included both loyal fans from his heyday and curious youngsters experiencing his energy for the first time. The performance was more than nostalgic entertainment. It was a statement of resilience, a declaration that Shabba Ranks had survived his exile and emerged with his artistic integrity intact. The years 2020 to 2024 have seen Shabba fully embrace his role as an elder statesman of dancehall music. His performances at Reggae Land in the UK and Reggae Love Fest in New York demonstrated that at nearly 60 years old, his stage presence remains electrifying. Music critics noted that while his voice has matured, losing some of its youthful aggression, it has gained a depth and richness that adds new dimensions to his classic material. These shows weren't just successful, they were triumphant, selling out venues and receiving rave reviews from critics who once questioned whether Shabba would ever perform again. Today Shabba Ranks lives in a stunning home in New York City that represents both his achievement and his journey. The 5,000 square foot residence blends modern luxury with subtle nods to his Jamaican heritage, a physical manifestation of a life that has bridged cultures, overcome adversity, and ultimately found balance. With a reported net worth of $2 million, a fraction of what he might have accumulated had his career continued uninterrupted, Shabba has nonetheless created a comfortable life for himself and his family. More importantly, he has found peace with his past, neither running from the controversy that defined him, nor allowing it to determine his future. The music industry's relationship with Shabba has evolved as well. The same record executives who once viewed him as radioactive now recognize the historical importance of his contributions. His influence can be heard in artists from Drake to Rihanna, both of whom have incorporated elements of dancehall into their global hits. Academic studies of Caribbean music cite him as a pivotal figure who commercialized dancehall without compromising its authentic roots. Even the Grammy Awards, which stopped nominating him after the controversy, have begun acknowledging his pioneering role in bringing Jamaican music to international audiences. Perhaps the most powerful testament to Shabba's resurrection comes not from critics or industry insiders, but from a new generation of dancehall artists. Performers like Popcaan, Alkaline and Coffee, all born after Shabba's prime, speak of him with reverence, studying his techniques and paying homage to his legacy in their own work. This organic recognition, untainted by nostalgia or personal connection, confirms what many have long believed, regardless of controversy, regardless of personal failings. Shabba Ranks fundamentally changed music. His innovations in flow, his fusion of dancehall with R&B and hip-hop elements, and his unapologetic incorporation of Jamaican patois into mainstream music created a blueprint that artists continue to follow decades later. What lessons can we draw from Shabba's journey? First, that talent, true undeniable talent, has staying power beyond scandal. Second, that redemption in the public eye requires not just time, but genuine growth and self-reflection. And third, that cultural impact can transcend personal mistakes. Shabba never attempted to erase his controversial past. Instead, he allowed his contributions to speak louder than his missteps. In an era where cancel culture can seem permanent and unforgiving, Shabba Ranks stands as evidence that second acts in public life are possible, though they require patience, humility, and an acceptance that the comeback might look different than the original rise. As we look to the future, the question is no longer whether Shabba will regain his former commercial status. That chapter has closed. The relevant question is how his legacy will continue to evolve. There are whispers of a documentary chronicling his life story, rumors of collaborations with contemporary artists eager to learn from his experience, and speculation about a final studio album that would serve as both capstone and bridge to the next generation. Whatever form his continuing contribution takes, one thing is certain: Shabba Ranks' place in music history is secure, not despite his complicated journey, but because of it. The story of Shabba Ranks isn't just about music, it's about resilience in the face of self-inflicted wounds. It's about the possibility of growth and redemption in an industry not known for second chances, and most importantly, it's about the undeniable power of artistic influence that can outlast even the most damaging controversies. So what do you think? Was Shabba's industry exile justified, or was the punishment too severe for the offense? Could today's cancel culture learn something from how Shabba navigated his way back to relevance without denying his past? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found value in this deep dive into one of music's most fascinating comeback stories, please hit that like button, share this video with someone who appreciates music history, and subscribe to our channel for more documentaries that go beyond the headlines to explore the complicated human stories behind the music we love. This is Music Legacies, reminding you that sometimes the most powerful notes are played after the music stops. See you in the next video.